Where shall I begin? So this is my personal website. So I'm a Drupal developer. I'm from Northern Ireland. I've been in Berlin probably for about a year in total, but only recently has it kind of been permanent with some commitment. But I'm going to stay in Berlin because I like it here. So I do a lot of Drupal stuff all the time. So I do lots of Drupal cons, Drupal camps. And I make a living through Drupal. But I was at DrupalCon Denver, so that was maybe 2 years ago, I think, and they had the chairperson from Mozilla was there doing a keynote, and she was talking about Mozilla Persona, this new sign-in system. So I thought that sounded pretty interesting, and then after a couple of years, I thought, well, I'll check it out, and it had developed into something. So I made a module for Drupal, so you could actually sign into Drupal with Mozilla Persona. And 2 weeks ago, I was in Prague for the DrupalCon, and I gave a session in Prague with the lead developer from Mozilla Persona. So he actually did most of the work, and it was very nice because he actually left his slides on my laptop. So I'm just going to use those. So this is a screenshot from 25 years ago, believe it or not. Probably know how it works, username and password. And then that's a screenshot from today. Username, password. It hasn't really changed very much in 25 years. And of course, we all know the problems with this. So if you go to a website and you have to give that website your password, there's all kinds of problems. They might just record your password and your email address, and then if they want to do something bad, they could try and log into other websites with those credentials. Or maybe they're doing the right thing, they're hashing the password, but still someone could break into their database. And most people have very weak passwords, which means that even with the password hashing, you can still work out the password. So there's a lot of security problems with just giving a password to a website. So these days we have other solutions. So you can have social sign-in with something like Facebook or Twitter, and that solves the problem quite a lot. It means that the website you're signing into doesn't have to store your password, so that's more secure in a way. But there's downsides to this. So not everybody wants to use Facebook. Maybe you don't want the website you're signing into to have access to your Facebook account. Maybe you don't want Facebook to have access to the website you're signing into. Or maybe you just want to use a different social service. So you can have a lot of buttons if you want, but hopefully the one you want to use is there. But it means that if you're building a website, you then have to integrate your website with all of these different services. So this is where, and of course, if you come back to the website, you have to remember which sign-in you used in the first place. And it may be if you're signing in with something like Google, they have restrictions. So they might say you have to use your real name. What if you want to, go onto your website and do something anonymously? Maybe you want to ask some advice that you don't want your insurance company to find out about. So there's a lot of problems with social sign-on. Okay, let me skip forward a little bit in this presentation. Okay, so this is kind of a brief overview of how it works. So this is your web browser. That is the website you want to sign into, and this is your identity provider. So this is how Mozilla Persona works. So first of all, from the web browser, you type in the email address you want to sign in with, and in the web browser, it goes and talks to your identity provider. It your identity provider will challenge you to maybe enter your password, or give a fingerprint or something like that, or it'll read your brainwaves, some sort of identification. It'll send a certificate back to the web browser, and then the web browser will create an assertion, a cryptographic assertion, and send it to the website. The website gets the public key from your identity provider, and then it can verify the assertion, and then it can determine that you're signing in successfully. And once you've done this once, your web browser doesn't need to keep talking to your identity provider. But a lot of identity providers they don't support the Mozilla Persona protocol. So what's the solution? Well, Mozilla have stepped in. So it's kind of the same. So first of all, your web browser will go and talk to your identity provider, but Gmail doesn't support Persona yet, so it'll just say, sorry, I don't support that. So Mozilla will jump in, and your web browser will talk to Mozilla, and then Mozilla will emulate it. So the basic thing it can do is it can send an email to your email address. Just do it the old-fashioned way. You've got to click on a link in your email, and that proves you own the email address. And then it continues as before. Okay, so I'm going to show you a demonstration. So I made the Drupal module. So Drupal is a framework for building websites. And if you have a Drupal website and you want people to sign in with Mozilla Persona, you can install the module and it'll work out of the box. So let's try signing in. This is just a demo website that I built. Okay, so let's try a Gmail address. Now, Gmail doesn't support Mozilla Persona. So it'll actually go to Gmail and okay, it happened all by itself. I'll show you another example. I'm actually just going to go into my my Yahoo account and clear some credentials. Okay, actually this might be okay. Yeah, hopefully this will prompt me for password. So there is a fallback implementation, so it'll work with any email address, but if it's a Gmail email address or a Yahoo email address, then it'll go through Mozilla, and then they will use some other technologies like OAuth or OpenID to prove that you own the email address. So I just have to type in my Yahoo password. And as easy as that, I'm signed in. And if I want to sign in again, maybe I want to sign into my own website to post a comment. My web browser, it has remembered some of the email addresses I use, so I can sign in 1 second. So I'll show you the Drupal module. So this is a very standard Drupal installation. I've already downloaded the module. I can enable it. immediately I get a sign in button just in the header region. So if you have a Drupal website, you can start using Persona straight away. And then there's plugins for lots of other frameworks. So if you're using WordPress or Joomla or whatever your favorite is, there's a plugin for all the different systems. And if we check out the settings page, so by default Drupal has its own authentication system, so that does it the traditional way where you have an email address and a password. If you say set Persona as the only sign-in method, then it'll just remove the existing system altogether. So if I sign out, there's no longer any username and password. The only thing I can do is sign in with Persona. And there's just a couple of other options. So you can change the button style. You might have seen the fade out effect when I'm signing in, so that's optional. You can specify the background color for the authentication dialog. So if I try signing in, it should hopefully prompt me with the color. So that's basically how it works. There's a lot more happening under the covers, but it's meant to be really simple. And there's a lot of advantages to this because you're getting the best of both worlds. It's federated, so people aren't stuck with using whichever social network you want them to use. You don't have the security problems of managing passwords yourself. So I think it's a really good system, and it's good for the web to keep everything federated and based on open standards. So that's about as far as I've got with that. Are there any questions from anybody? Yeah.
If I've understood it correctly, that it works out what email address you're using and then goes to the email provider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think email address is really the primary key of your identity. So that's actually quite a useful concept in general.
And what if it's some proprietary email provider instead of Gmail or something like that?
So there's a fallback implementation. So it'll just Mozilla will just send an email to that email address, and you click on the link in that email. So that just does it the old-fashioned way, if that's the only option that's available.
So if I persona with a website using like an Yahoo account and I lose access to that account and I lost that website,
yeah,
is there any way to say like this Yahoo and this Gmail are the same person, or is that?
It's really up to the website. So for example, if you've got an account on a website, you might be able to add more than one email address.
Yes, it's a website level, not at the persona level.
Yeah. In general, your email address is your identity, and so let's say you work for a company and then you stop working for the company, so they switch off your email address. That would mean that you lose access to all of the accounts that you're using with that email address. So it kind of makes sense, but people do have to be aware that if they do lose access to an email address, then that could mean that they can't access some of their accounts.
Yeah. Does it work if the user deletes cookies and like every browser data available basically?
Yeah. So if you really want to be signed out, you can wipe your browser or reboot your computer, like what might happen in an internet cafe. So that's really, if you want to be signed out, you should wipe your cookies, and then you can always sign back in again because you can always prove that you own an email address. So that's kind of what it hinges upon.
But I do have to like let my cookies exist when I close the browser to use Persona continuously on my own personal computer, or can I delete my cookies?
I think if you're signed into a website, you have to maintain the cookies. But if you sign onto a website and you don't want to be signed in until the next day, then you could delete your cookies and then you could just sign in again. It might mean that you have to type in your Yahoo password or your Gmail password again. Any other questions? I can show you a quick demo of something else. So in Drupal, there's actually there's a lot of different distributions of Drupal you can use. So that means if you want to build an e-commerce site, for example, you can use Commerce Kickstart, which is just a Drupal installation with lots of modules pre-configured to be an e-commerce shop. So I've installed Mozilla Persona on this website. So let's say I just want to buy something. I'll buy this bottle. So I've put it in my cart, and I just want to check out. So I want to sign into my account. I want to give them my email address. I want to prove that I own the email address. So I click sign in. My web browser already has proof that I own some email addresses, so I select the one I want to use. I click sign in. And then I've become signed into the website. It's transferred my cart from the anonymous session into a user session. So I think this is a really great flow for signing into a website. It means that people don't have to go and check their email or do anything complicated like that. It's just 2 clicks to get signed in. So it helps with your funnel. Yeah.
The thing I just don't really get is, technically you were logged out a moment ago. There was nothing, no login, and you just click sign in, and you just click the email, and you're logged in with no credentials, so no password because it's all stored. So it kind of, when you are logged out from the website, you go to Facebook and say logged out, and you accuse your friend. You kind of expect them not to be able to log in, just clicking.
Yeah.
That's a bit.
So what you can do is when you're on the sign-in dialog, you can click "This is not me," and whenever you click that, it deletes all your credentials from the web browser. So once you've done that,
Is this sort of like a lower level security, or do you say if you wanted to change your profile settings or something like that, would they require the password again? Because this could be a security hole.
Can you explain your point a bit more?
I'm on a public computer, and
So if let's say you were using the web on a public computer, and then you're finished, so you want to walk away and you just want to clear your credentials. If you click on that "This is not me" button, that just deletes the credentials from the web browser. So if someone then came to that web browser and wanted to sign in, there would be no credentials for them.
so I'd have to rely on my customers clicking "This is not me" after they've signed out.
But this is no difference. It's the same thing without Persona.
It's always like that in a web browser. You have to.
Yeah, but I mean, it's actually the same if you do with Twitter or something, but the problem is like 2 layers. You have to log out from the application and then kind of log out from Persona, so you're logged out from everything. And that's
So this is the Bootstrap implementation. So the idea is that it's all handled by your web browser. At the moment, no web browsers support the API, so this is actually a JavaScript polyfill. But it's meant to be a direct connection from your web browser to your identity provider and to the website you're signing into. So eventually, Mozilla won't actually be involved at all. It'll just be a protocol that anyone can implement. But in general, if you even if you sign out from a website, you still have to clear your browser. Otherwise, someone can just sign straight back in again. Because okay, if you didn't click the button, please please remember my password.
But even if you do that, I mean, if you do it in browser, the usual bar you get, I want to remember this, but if you do that, well, that's your thing. But the thing is, usually when you click log out, this cookie is marked as invalid server side, and that's it. There's no way of logging in without credentials again. It would be nice. I don't know.
Maybe it's a setting to say when I log out, clear my session. I don't want to be remembered.
I think like whenever there's a native browser implementation, there could just be like a big sign out button that just sits on the web browser. But at the moment, if you click sign out, you still have to click on the "this is not me" just to basically wipe your web browser. And I suppose because it's you're not signing into each website individually, you're making sure that your web browser has cryptographic proof that you own an email address. So it's a different thing. So either your web browser can prove that you own an email address or it can't. Whether or not a specific website thinks that you're signed in or not isn't really relevant from a security point of view. Yep.
Could there be an additional request from the site using Persona? Like, before I place an order with a shopping cart, can I ask for confirmation by password? Or I make an expensive purchase, like confirm with password that you're you and that you actually want to perform this action through your Persona?
So at the moment, it's just a proof that you own the email address, but if you want to do something substantial, like if you're signing into your online banking and you want to make a transfer or you want to purchase something expensive, it might be that the website should then have something else, just to, like an extra form of authentication, just to prove that you're, just to have a greater, like a greater proof that you are who you say you are. But at the moment, that's not in the scope of Persona. Any other questions? Okay, so I think I can wrap it up. So thanks for listening, and hopefully you'll give Persona a go on your next website.